you already know that respiratory bronchial then alveolar ducts and alveoli. So these are alveoli, tiny air balls attached to the alveolar ducts. So this is alveolar duct, and these are alveoli. Okay, and gas exchange occurs through the wall of these three structures: respiratory bronchial, alveolar ducts, and alveoli, but mostly through the wall of the alveoli. Now, each alveolus is singular, gets capillary bed on it. On the surface of the alveolus, you have the capillary. So this is the alveolus, and this is the capillary. And since the capillary rests on the alveolus, you have blood here inside the capillary and air inside the alveolus. So you have air and blood. And you know that blood goes to the lung to get what? Oxygen, right? So from the alveolus, oxygen enters into the blood, capillary blood, right? And always remember that carbon dioxide moves in opposite direction of the oxygen. So the carbon dioxide goes from the blood, capillary blood, to the alveolus in opposite direction, always, everywhere. Okay, so that is the external respiration. What happens in the lung? The gas exchange that occurs in the lung is called what? The external respiration. Okay. Now, the membrane through which the gas exchange occurs between the alveolus and the capillary blood, that membrane is called the respiratory membrane. So this membrane is the respiratory membrane through which the gas exchange occurs in the lung. Now, if I ask you, respiratory membrane consists of what? The wall of the alveolus and the wall of the capillary, right? Those two together there. So, respiratory membrane consists of alveolar wall and the capillary wall. Okay, those two. Okay. If you see the structure of the alveolar wall, you have two layers in it. Alveolar epithelium, that is a simple squamous, and the basement membrane. So this is the alveolar epithelium, and this is the basement membrane. That is the alveolar wall. Okay, this one. Now, if you see the capillary wall of the capillary, it has also a basement membrane and capillary endothelium, which is also simply squamous. Capillary endothelium. So this is also basement membrane, and this is capillary endothelium. So this is the respiratory membrane, right? The wall of the alveolus, the wall of the capillary. Those two are together. So now we can say that respiratory membrane has how many layers? Alveolar epithelium. If you go from alveolar side to the capillary side, number one. Number two, two basement membranes, one from capillary wall, another from the alveolar wall. They are attached to each other. So we can say a fused basement membrane, two basement membranes together. And then the capillary side, you have the capillary endothelium. So those are the three layers of the respiratory membrane. Those three layers are formed by alveolar wall and the capillary wall. And through this respiratory membrane, gas exchange occurs. Okay? And this is the gas exchange that occurs through the respiratory membrane. Now, there are few factors that can change the amount of gas exchange. How much gas exchange occurs, that can be affected by few factors. What are those factors? Factors affect the gas exchange are, number one, pressure difference. How much pressure difference is there? For example, if the oxygen pressure here in the alveoli is 104 millimeter of mercury, and in the blood is 40 millimeter of mercury. That is the normal pressure in the alveolus and in the capillary blood. The difference here is 64 millimeter of mercury, right? The difference is 64 millimeter of mercury. In the alveolus, the oxygen pressure of oxygen is 104, and in the capillary blood is 40. And always gas moves, this is important, from high pressure to low pressure, okay? Gas moves in which direction? From high to low. So because of 64 millimeter pressure difference here, the gas oxygen will go from the alveolus to the blood, and blood will get the oxygen. Make sense? Now, if the pressure difference is more than 64, more oxygen will move. Make sense? If pressure difference is less than 64, less oxygen will move. So that is number one. Number two, solubility of the respiratory membrane. So the gas can easily pass through the respiratory membrane if the gas is more soluble to the respiratory membrane. So oxygen is less soluble than carbon dioxide. We know that. Oxygen is 20 times less soluble than carbon dioxide to the respiratory membrane. So oxygen moves slower than carbon dioxide. Why? Because oxygen is less soluble to the respiratory membrane. And how many times less soluble? 20 times. 20 times less soluble oxygen. Okay. So carbon dioxide moves faster than the oxygen. So that is another factor. Now number 3 is the surface area. If someone's alveoli, many alveoli have been destroyed because of emphysema, one clinical condition that destroys the alveolar wall, right? So in that person's lung, the total surface area of alveolar wall is less because he has less alveolus. Make sense? So that is another factor, the total surface area. If you have more alveoli, your surface area is bigger. If you have less alveoli, the total surface area is less, right? So that is another factor. Another is the quality of the respiratory membrane. You know, the respiratory membrane, the gas passes through the respiratory membrane, and respiratory membrane has pores. So if this is the respiratory membrane of one person who is healthy, the lung is very good, healthy lung, and this is the respiratory membrane of another person who smokes a lot, so many of those pores got locked. Okay? Some are open. So although the surface area is same, but through this respiratory membrane, gas exchange will occur more than this because many pores are closed here. Okay, so the quality of the respiratory membrane is another factor that will determine or affect the gas exchange. Okay, so those are few factors that can affect the exchange of gas through the respiratory membrane. Now, if you see the wall of an alveolus, in the wall of the alveolus, you have 3 types of cells. In the wall of the alveolus, you need to know what are those 3 types of cells. Type 1. Cells are simple squamous, single layer of squamous cells. Okay, these are type 1 cells, and type 1 cells form the alveolar wall. Most part of the alveolar wall is formed by type 1, that is squamous type of flat cells. Type 2 cells are also called surfactant secreting cells. Okay, so type 2 cells are also called surfactant secreting cells. That means these cells secrete surfactant. What is surfactant? Surfactant is a fluid that lines the alveolar wall. So this is the alveolus, right? Inside the alveolar wall, that fluid forms a layer, a lining, and that surfactant lining is very important to keep the alveolus open. If someone has lack or absence of surfactant, the alveoli will collapse. So to keep the alveoli open, you need that fluid that lines the inner surface of the alveolus. Very important type of cells. And another type of cells are macrophages. You know macrophages are phagocytic cells, right? So those are three types of cells in the alveolar wall. Squamous cells form the most part of the wall, and surfactant and macrophages are scattered, present in the alveolar wall. Okay, macrophages engulf the antigens, right? Now, why you need macrophages in the alveolar wall? You know that you inhale the air, right? 24 hours, all the time you are inhaling the air from outside, and antigens, microorganisms are always entering, right? We don't see them, but they are entering. So in the wall of all alveoli you have macrophages, so they can engulf and destroy the microorganisms. Make sense? So you have macrophages too. Okay, so now in some infants we see the lack of surfactant secreting cells. So those infants suffer from respiratory distress, severe respiratory problem because of lack of surfactant secreting cells, and that clinical condition is called infant respiratory distress syndrome, IRDS. Now the main reasons why infants don't have enough surfactant secreting cells, number one is premature birth. If the infant baby borns prematurely, many surfactant secreting cells are still not mature and not producing and secreting surfactant. That is one condition, okay? Premature birth. In that case, if you put the infant in incubator, right, for a while, then when the lung will get matured, the surfactant secreting cells will get matured and will start to secrete surfactant, right? So the chance of surviving is good. But sometimes we see lack of surfactant secreting cells due to genetic disorder, abnormal genes, and in that case it's difficult to produce the cells, right? Lack of cells due to genetic disorder, and in that case the chance of death of infant is high, okay? So that's the clinical condition called infant respiratory distress syndrome, okay? Okay, so surfactant is very important. Now we'll talk about the pressure. You know that pressure moves the gas that I have just mentioned. Gas will always move from high pressure to low pressure. Partial pressure. So let's first see in the lung. This is the alveolus, and you know that the capillaries lie on the alveolus. So this is the capillary. You have blood here and gas here. So you have oxygen that moves from the alveolus to the blood. We know that blood goes to the lung to get the oxygen. So from the lung, alveolus of the lung, oxygen goes to the blood. And carbon dioxide always moves in opposite direction. So carbon dioxide, that. Okay. Now you tell me, since oxygen moves from here to here, from the alveolus to the blood, where the pressure should be higher? Here, right? Because gas always moves from high to low. Is it clear? So pressure must be higher here. Where the carbon dioxide pressure should be higher? In the blood, right? So it can move here. So the pressure of oxygen in the alveolus is 104 that I have just mentioned millimeter of mercury. That is the unit. Okay. And when the blood enters into the lung, at that time the pressure of oxygen is only 40 millimeter of mercury in the blood when it enters into the lung, right? So what is the difference here? How much? 64 millimeter of mercury. That's a lot, right? So because of that 64 millimeter pressure difference, the oxygen will move from the alveolus to the blood. Now, the pressure of carbon dioxide in the blood is 45 millimeter of mercury. And in the alveolus, the pressure of carbon dioxide is 40 millimeter of mercury. So what is the difference? Only 5 millimeter of mercury. And because of that pressure difference, carbon dioxide moves from the blood to the alveolus. Now, in case of oxygen, the pressure difference is very high, right? 64. We are only what? 5. But same amount of oxygen and carbon dioxide will move because we know that carbon dioxide is 20 times more soluble than oxygen that I mentioned, right? 20 times more soluble. So carbon dioxide moves faster than the oxygen. Okay. So that is the external respiration that happens in the lung. External respiration that happens in the lung, remember. Now we'll see internal respiration that happens in the tissue. And you know that tissue has many cells. So this is the tissue. And blood goes to the tissue to give what? You all know, right? Blood goes to the tissue to give oxygen nutrition, right? Oxygen. Okay, very good. So blood gets oxygen from the lung and goes to the tissue to give the oxygen to the tissue. Okay, so this is the capillary in the tissue. So here you have the blood. Now you already know blood gives oxygen to the tissue, right? You know that blood gives oxygen to the tissue. So oxygen moves from the blood to the tissue. So where the pressure of oxygen should be higher, in the blood or in the tissue? In the blood. Very good. And here in the blood, the oxygen pressure is 100 millimeter of mercury in the blood. Okay, here. And the tissue, the pressure of oxygen is only 40 millimeter of mercury. So the difference is 60 millimeter of mercury. Make sense? The difference is 60. That's a lot. So oxygen will move from the blood to the tissue. Now carbon dioxide always moves in the opposite direction. That means from the tissue to the blood. Carbon dioxide. And the pressure of carbon dioxide in the tissue is 45 millimeter of mercury, and in the blood is 40 millimeter of mercury. So the difference is 5, and that is enough because carbon dioxide is 20 times more soluble than the oxygen. So the carbon dioxide only 5 millimeter of mercury pressure difference, but it will move faster than oxygen, right? So That's the internal respiration that occurs in the tissue. Internal respiration that occurs in the tissue. Okay. Now, who transports the gases? Blood, right? Blood transports the gases. So, how the blood transports? Oxygen transport and carbon dioxide transport. Okay, so we know that these two gases are transported by the blood. Okay, so we'll see how the blood transports the oxygen and the carbon dioxide. Okay. Okay. Oxygen is mostly transported by the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin binds with oxygen, or oxygen binds with hemoglobin and form oxyhemoglobin. Oxyhemoglobin, and 98.5% oxygen is transported by the hemoglobin. So oxygen is mostly transported by the hemoglobin, 98.5%. Okay. Small amount of oxygen is transported by the plasma. Okay. Plasma transports like 1% or 1.5%, rest of the oxygen. Now, carbon dioxide is mostly transported by the plasma, but as bicarbonate. As bicarbonate. This is bicarbonate, and carbon dioxide is inside it. So, carbon dioxide is mostly transported as bicarbonate. How much? About 70% carbon dioxide is transported as bicarbonate. Okay. How carbon dioxide is transported as bicarbonate? What happens after the carbon dioxide enters into the blood? Carbon dioxide reacts with the water in the blood. In the plasma you have water, right? So produce H2CO3, carbonic acid.
Sorry, question?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so 70% as bicarbonate. How? The carbon dioxide binds with water and produces carbonic acid, and that one quickly splits into hydrogen ion and bicarbonate. So you see here, this carbon dioxide is now inside the bicarbonate, right? So that's how blood transports the carbon dioxide, about 70%. Okay. Let's see. Okay, now this time we are talking about the gas. Here, okay, 70% carbon dioxide is transported as bicarbonate ion, 7 to 10% by the plasma directly. Okay, plasma transports 7 to 10%. Okay, and then 20% is transported by the hemoglobin. 20%. And when the carbon dioxide binds with hemoglobin, this compound is called carbaminohemoglobin. Carbaminohemoglobin. Okay. So that's how the blood transports oxygen and carbon dioxide. Okay. Now, the binding of oxygen and hemoglobin is called oxyhemoglobin saturation. Oxyhemoglobin saturation. And if you see the oxyhemoglobin saturation or binding of oxygen and hemoglobin in a healthy person, you will see the curve looks like this. This is called oxyhemoglobin saturation curve. In this curve, in x-axis, you see here showing the pressure of oxygen, and in y-axis the saturation of hemoglobin. So as the pressure, that means the concentration of oxygen increases, the saturation or binding is more. That is very simple, right? If you have more oxygen, binding will be more. Make sense? So if pressure of oxygen, that means the concentration of oxygen is more, the binding will be more. So as you see here, the pressure of oxygen, PO2, increases, more and more hemoglobin binds with oxygen. One thing here, you notice that about 80% saturation occurs within the pressure of oxygen, like around 40 millimeter of mercury. Then after that, it goes slow. After 40 millimeter of mercury, it goes slow. Even the pressure of oxygen is going up a lot, but the saturation of hemoglobin is less. It makes sense because when hemoglobin is empty, if you give little bit oxygen, it will quickly bind, right? Because hemoglobin is not saturated. You know, when you mix sugar in water, right? First, if you give a small amount, quickly get dissolved, right? As you increase, it will get slower. So exactly same thing here. Once most of the hemoglobin are attached to the oxygen, then even if you add more oxygen, the binding will be less. Now, this is the normal saturation. The saturation of hemoglobin can be changed due to some factors. So what are those factors? Can change the binding of oxygen with hemoglobin. That means the saturation curve. One is the temperature. You see here, our body temperature is 38 degrees Celsius here. This is the normal saturation curve, this one. And if the temperature decreases, temperature is low, the saturation is faster. That means the curve moves to the left. That means fast. You see here is steep. So low temperature means better saturation. If the temperature increases, the saturation is less. gets slower. Another factor is carbon dioxide in the blood. If the carbon dioxide concentration increases in the blood, the saturation of oxygen gets slower because the competition is more. You know that both carbon dioxide and oxygen bind with the hemoglobin. So increased carbon dioxide will decrease oxygen's hemoglobin saturation. And increased oxygen pressure will do opposite. If you have more oxygen, less carbon dioxide, then binding will be more. So that is another factor. And then the pH is another important factor that changes the saturation curve. If the pH is low, the saturation will be less. So let me write it down. Decrease temperature, better saturation. Okay. Decrease carbon dioxide, better saturation. Increase oxygen, better saturation. Makes sense. More oxygen, more saturation by the oxygen. And decrease pH, that means blood moves towards acidic. Less saturation. Okay. So if the pH goes down, that means the blood is moving towards acidic, and in that case the saturation will be less. Okay. Here you see how the oxygen and carbon dioxide are transported. So first you see okay, so here you see in the tissue, you can see in the blood the red blood cell, and what happens, we know that in the tissue carbon dioxide enters into the blood, and you see inside the red blood cell carbon dioxide binds with water and forms carbonic acid that splits into bicarbonate and hydrogen, and 70% carbon dioxide is transported as bicarbonate that I showed you, and that's why they have shown with thick blue arrow. That means 70%, most of the carbon dioxide. And after the bicarbonate is formed, you see the bicarbonate is pushed out from the red blood cell. That means the bicarbonate goes to the plasma outside of the red blood cell and is transported by the plasma as bicarbonate. Okay. And you see 20% carbon dioxide binds with hemoglobin and form carbaminohemoglobin. Inside the red blood cell you have the hemoglobin. So that is inside the red blood cell. And a small amount, 7 to 10%, directly transported by the plasma. You see the top one, carbon dioxide dissolved in plasma, 7 to 10%. Okay, so that's how the carbon dioxide is transported. And in the tissue, oxygen goes from the blood to the tissue, and it is shown by the red color. So you see that about 98.5% oxygen is transported as oxyhemoglobin, HbO2, inside the red blood cell, and that oxyhemoglobin releases the oxygen, and that gets out from the blood and enters into the tissue. A small amount of plasma, 1.5%, is dissolved in the plasma. 1.5% oxygen is dissolved in the plasma, and that leaves the plasma and enters into the tissue. So that's how the oxygen and carbon dioxide are transported. Okay. Okay. Before I go to talk about the regulation of respiration or control of respiration, one more thing I'll talk about, that's the mechanisms of breathing, mechanics of breathing. Okay. So you know that respiration has two processes. So respiration has two processes. Inspiration, which is also called inhalation, that is an active process, and expiration, which is also called exhalation of air. Exhale or expelling the air, that is a passive process. So normal inspiration is an active process, normal expiration is a passive process. Now forceful expiration is not a passive. If you want to expire the air forcefully, that is an active process. Forceful expiration, but normal expiration is passive. Okay. Now, what causes inspiration? What causes the air enter into the lung? Okay. The respiratory muscles. Two respiratory muscles help in normal breathing: intercostals and diaphragm. These two muscles help in normal respiration: intercostals and diaphragm. Now you tell me, intercostal muscles are where? In between the ribs, right? That's why it is called intercostal. There are two intercostals, external and internal, like this. Okay, so this is external, this is internal, and in between the ribs, that's why called intercostal. Okay. Now, when the intercostal muscles contract, this is important. Just remember, when the intercostal muscles contract, the ribs move forward and upward, like this. Ribs move what? Forward and upwards. Okay. And your diaphragm is here. You all know, right? Under the lung. So when the diaphragm contracts, diaphragm moves downwards. Diaphragm moves what? Downwards. Now, you see here, your lung has two coverings, two layers in the covering. The covering of the lung is called pleura. So pleura is the and it has two layers, visceral and parietal. These two layers, and there is a gap between those two layers, that is called the pleural cavity. The gap between two layers. So what happens? This is the lung, this is your chest wall. Okay, so this is the chest wall. And the layer of the pleura that is attached to the lung, that is the visceral pleura, like this, and then it goes like this, and this is another layer. Okay, so this is the visceral, and the one attached to the chest wall, that is the parietal. Okay, so parietal is attached to the chest wall, and visceral is attached to the lung, outer surface of the lung, and the gap between these two is called the pleural cavity. It's like pericardium, and it contains a fluid that is a lubricating type fluid, pleural fluid in the cavity, slippery. Okay, so that reduces the friction when the lung expands and contracts, because the movement of those two layers occur, right? And that fluid prevents the friction. It's very important. Now, what happens when the intercostal muscles contract? You see, the ribs move in which direction? Forward and upward, right? So this way. So the parietal layer is attached to the chest wall. So the parietal pleura also moves, right, forward and upward, and also that causes the movement of the anterior surface of the lung forward and upward. So everything will move forward and upward. So the lung will expand anterior-posteriorly this way. Make sense? The chest wall will move like this. So the anterior surface of the lung will also move like this way. So the lung expands this way. Make sense? When the diaphragm contracts, it moves in which direction? Down. So when diaphragm contracts, diaphragm moves down, and your bottom of the lung, which is the base, is attached to the diaphragm. So it pulls the bottom of the lung downwards. So which way the lung expands in this case? This way, right? Vertically, superior inferiorly, because you are pulling from the bottom. So ribs, movement of the ribs will expand the lung this way, makes sense? Make it bigger this way, and movement of the diaphragm expands this way, makes sense? So inside the lung, the volume will increase because lung is getting expanded, bigger. Now you tell me, if the volume inside the lung increases, this is something you need to tell me. The pressure will go down or up. Just think something, if you squeeze something, pressure goes up, right, inside. If you expand, pressure goes down, right? So a vacuum will be created there, right? So that will move the air from outside to inside. When the pressure inside the lung goes down, the air will get in. Make sense? Now, how much pressure changes due to the expansion of the lung? It is very important that you know three pressures work here. If you know that, it will be easy for you to understand. Inside the lung, the pressure of gas is 759 to 761 millimeter of mercury inside the lung. That is called intrapulmonary, because pulmonary means lung, inside the lung. Okay, intrapulmonary pressure inside the lung is not fixed. It changes between 759 to 761. Outside of the body, that is the atmospheric pressure. At sea level, where we live, the atmospheric pressure is 760 millimeter of mercury, always fixed. This is not changing. At sea level, the pressure of gas is what? 760, and it is fixed. Okay. There is another pressure, that is the intrapleural pressure. This is the pleural cavity. You remember? We have fluid here. So there is a pressure there that is called intrapleural pressure. This pressure is 756 millimeter of mercury. This one is also fixed. 756. That's the intrapleural pressure. Let's first think only intrapulmonary and atmospheric pressure. That means inside the lung and outside of the body in the atmosphere. Okay. Now, you know already that when lung expands, the pressure inside the lung goes down, right? And goes down to what? 759, because it cannot go below that. 759, okay? When lung expands. So 759, and outside pressure is what? 760, always fixed, right? So how much less inside? Only 1 millimeter of mercury, right? That 1 millimeter of mercury pressure difference is strong enough to move the gas from outside to inside. Make sense? Gas will always move from high to low. So from the outside of the body to inside. Because of what? How much pressure difference? Only 1 millimeter of mercury. Okay? That will cause inspiration, inhalation. Okay. After that, after the inspiration is done, next process is what? Expiration, right? So when the muscle contraction is done, the muscles will relax, right? So now you tell me, when intercostal muscles will relax, the ribs will go back, right? And when the diaphragm will relax, it will move up. So the lung will recoil, because lung is highly elastic, right? So it will recoil, get smaller. So when the lung will get smaller, the pressure is going up, right? And the pressure, higher pressure is 761. So how much more than outside? Only 1. When the lung recoils, the pressure goes up to 761. Now outside pressure is 760, right? So the gas, air will get out from the lung. Always from high to low. That is the expiration. So which one is active process? Where the muscle contraction is occurring, right? That is the active process. So inspiration is an active process. Recoil is not an active process. You know, you have the elastic thing, rubber. To expand it, you need pressure, right? Then you can leave, it will go back. You don't need to put pressure to recoil. So that's why expiration is a passive process. Now if you want to do forceful breathing, you need to use the abdominal muscles, right? You know, when you do exercise, your abdominal muscles are used, right? Active, because you try to do more. Okay, so that is the mechanism of respiration. Now one more thing here is why you need intrapleural pressure there, and it should be less than intrapulmonary. Intrapulmonary, you see, 759 to 761, and this one is always 756. So So always less than interpulmonary, right? Even when interpulmonary is 759, this is how much less? 3. So the difference is 3 to 5. Okay, and that negative pressure here, negative pressure or less pressure keeps the lung expanded, alveoli expanded. Otherwise, the lung will collapse a lot. We don't want that. Now, sometimes, if you get injury in your chest wall, if someone stabs you or something pierces through the chest wall, then what will happen? This is the chest wall. If you make a hole here, then here is 756, right? Outside is what? 760. So, a lot of air will quickly get in interpleural space, right? And that pressure is now higher than this. So, that will not let you expand the lung, right? So that is a problem. Okay. I was wondering if we missed anything from lecture part 1. Would it go to part 1? Let's see. Okay. The lungs. The right and left lungs. So the lung has the upper end which is pointed, that is called the apex, and the bottom inferior surface of the lung is flat, and that is called the base. And in the medial surface of the lung, you have an area through which the primary bronchus, that trachea divides into right and left primary bronchi. So primary bronchus and pulmonary blood vessels, nerves enter into the lung. This area is called the hilum of the lung. And you have the diaphragm here attached to the base of the lung. Diaphragm. Okay. And the difference between right and left lung is right lung is shorter and broader. So let me write here. Right lung is short and broad. Wider. But this way shorter. This way bigger. Left lung is long and narrow. Long and narrow. Left lung. Okay. In right lung, you have two cuts. One is called transverse and another is oblique. So this is the transverse fissure. Fissure is the cut, slice. And this is the oblique fissure. So two fissures, transverse and oblique in right lung. That means how many lobes? 1, 2, 3. Superior lobe, middle lobe, inferior lobe. In left lung, you only have an oblique fissure. So superior and inferior, 2 lobes. In the left lung, you have an U-shaped area that is called the cardiac notch because your heart is here. So cardiac notch. Only in the left lung because we know that heart is in the left side. Okay? So those are the differences between your right and left lungs. Now, why the right lung is short this way? You know the liver, when your lung body parts grow, liver is in the right side, right? So liver is below the right lung. So when liver grows, it pushes the lung from the bottom. That's why the right lung, to give space to the liver, right lung gets what? Shorter. Makes sense? Pushing up. While left lung is narrow, heart, heart is in the left side, right? So when heart grows, it pushes the left lung. So left lung is narrow. Makes sense? So those are the differences between right and left lungs. Now we'll talk about the control of respiration. You have respiratory centers. You must remember pons, medulla from NP1, right? You did the dissection of sheep brain. So, in the pons, you have a respiratory center that is called pontine. And in the medulla, you have two other centers, ventral and dorsal. So this is the ventral respiratory center or respiratory group, and this is the dorsal respiratory center or respiratory group. And this is the pontine in the pons. Okay. Now, the function of dorsal is collecting information from the lung. This is the lung. From the wall of the lung, signal goes to dorsal. This way. From the diaphragm, signal goes to dorsal. From the pleura, that's the covering of the lung, you remember, signal goes to the dorsal. So from those structures, wall of the lung, pleura, diaphragm, signal goes to the dorsal. So dorsal, we say, collect the signal from the periphery. Dorsal collects peripheral signals. Okay. What kind of signal? When the lung is expanding, your lung wall and pleura, everywhere you have stretch receptors, pressure receptors. Okay. So when your lung expands, from those structures, the stretch receptors send signal to the dorsal. Okay. That lung is expanding. And when the expansion reaches to a certain limit, then what will happen? The dorsal will send signal to the ventral that lung has expanded enough. No more expansion, otherwise lung will do what? If too much expansion occurs, the alveoli will rupture, right? Tiny balls inside the lung. So it must be stopped. You know that, right? If lung expands too much, that can cause problem. So the dorsal will send signal to the ventral and tell the ventral that lung has expanded enough. Now send signal to the lung to stop. So ventral sends signal to the diaphragm and the intercostal muscles. Those are two muscles, you know that. Intercostal muscles in the chest wall and the diaphragm in the bottom of the lung. So ventral sends signal to what? Intercostal muscles and diaphragm, right? Stop. stop, don't contract anymore. Now time to stop, right? If they keep contracting, then ribs will move up more, right? Or diaphragm will keep moving down. It has to be stopped. So ventral tells the diaphragm and intercostal muscles, don't expand the lung anymore. Stop. So that is the signal. Goes downwards from the ventral to those two structures, the diaphragm and intercostal. And the muscles contraction will be stopped, and you know that lung will recoil because it is elastic, right? When the muscle contraction will stop, muscles will relax, the lung will recoil. That will cause expiration. And that's how your respiration is going on 24 hours. You see here what is happening. Your respiratory muscles are contracting, intercostal muscles are contracting, ribs are moving up and forward, right? Lung is expanding this way, diaphragm is moving down, lung is expanding that way, right? Inspiration occurs. And at certain point, your lung stops further expansion, right? It's not going expand anymore. And who is doing that? The ventral. Ventral is stopping the expansion further. And then the muscles will relax and lung will recoil. Now, what's the function of pontine? Pontine is the boss. Pontine monitors the ventral and dorsal. It is sitting above and monitoring, watching the ventral and dorsal. And if it sees any problem there, it fixes. Adjustment. So fine adjustment is done by the pontine. Okay, fixing the function of problem if there is any in ventral and dorsal. So that's the function of pontine. Okay, so that's how the respiration occurs. Okay. So just go over those. Now you'll understand if you read. Okay. Herring-Brewer reflex is the reflex that I have already explained here. What happens when your lung expands? You have stress receptors, right? Stress receptors will get activated, send signal, inhibitory signal. Time to stop now, right? So that is the Herring-Brewer reflex, which is a protection for your lung, right? Otherwise, lung will keep expanding. Here, just you go over after you go home. Factors that increase or decrease the respiration. So, you know, when you do exercise, your respiratory rate increases, right? So, that is one factor that increases. There are some factors that decreases the breathing. Painful situation, right? Pain can decrease the respiratory rate. Carbon dioxide in the blood will increase, because if carbon dioxide in the blood increases, you have to breathe more to expel the carbon dioxide out. Okay. Stress receptors that I have just explained will prevent the overexpansion. So inhibition will go to the respiratory centers. Lung will not expand anymore. Just I will briefly go over one sentence for each of these conditions. Asthma is the condition in which the bronchoconstriction occurs, constriction of the bronchioles. So you have difficulty in breathing. Your bronchioles constrict. Pleuritis and pleurosis, both are same, inflammation of the pleura, that's the covering of the lung. Emphysema is the destruction of the alveolar wall. So the surface area will be less for gas exchange. Tuberculosis is the bacterial infection in the lung tissue that is caused by Mycobacterium tuberculosis. That's the name of the bacteria. Mycobacterium Bacterium tuberculosis. Okay, causes tuberculosis. Pneumonia is the inflammation of the lung tissue. It could be due to virus, bacteria, or even some chemicals, including drugs, can cause pneumonia. Hypoxia, decreased oxygen in the tissue is called hypoxia. If you go on the top of the mountain where oxygen is less, you will have hypoxia. Apnea, A means absence. So apnea is temporary cessation of breathing, temporary stoppage of breathing, not permanent. If it is permanent, then you know what happens, right? So it is temporary stoppage of breathing. Hypercapnia, hyper means more, capnia is carbon dioxide. So more carbon dioxide in the blood is hypercapnia. Dyspnea, disorder in breathing, irregular breathing is dyspnea. Tachypnea, tachy means fast. So if the respiratory rate is more than normal, that condition is called tachypnea. Okay, so those are some conditions related to your respiratory system. Another one, bronchitis, is the inflammation of itis is the inflammation bronchioles. So those are some clinical conditions.